Well, there you go, friends. Okay, we're ready. I think another video blurb for you. Trying to do at least one a day, if at all possible, uh, and never out of ideas. But I do have this new idea. And many of you, over the course of time, have sent me some rather interesting, positive stories, funny, uh, enlightening, that kind of thing. If you got something, let me know, and I'll read it on the web and turn it into a video blurb for you and post it on my YouTube site. Yeah, and sure, give you full credit. No money, but I'll say, you sent it right. All in all, though, I think it'd be fun because you listeners do come up with some great stories. All I ask is that it not be derogatory. We'll only use first names. That way, people can't necessarily be insulted, and it's got to be original to something you wrote, not uh, not what you found somewhere else. Okay, because I want it your story, not something you found on the web and saved. Excuse me, I've just my oh gosh, now my nose. I'm trying to talk, and it must have been one of my mustache hairs grew the other way or something. It was kind of wow, wow. Okay, there. I think I'm all right. Uh, I know. Well, this is not high production stuff. If your nose itches, as far as I can say, scratch it. That's all. What are you going to do? Anyway, one of our listeners and a fellow who emails me a lot is Paul from Australia. Wonderful fella. I've never met him except by way of cyberspace, and he listens a lot to my webcast, my radio, my web radio shows, and he seems to be a big fan, and he's always got a tale. Australia, I guess, would be a land of a trillion stories. There are so many things. In fact, oh gee, I'll never be able to find it, but I'll explain. One day, my wife Sandy got a rather large boomerang, a very old one, and it's in the house somewhere. But it's probably, I'd say, from tip to tip, it's probably at least 4 feet. It's a huge, and it's made out of this real tough wood, and it turns out it's very, very old. It could be 200 or 300 years old. Uh, Very nice, and it's a boomerang. We I sent a picture of it to Paul, and he wrote, and I said, Paul, what do you think about this? And he looked it over, I guess, the picture, and he sent back an email saying, yeah, that's definitely an Aborigine item. He says probably very old, like you thought. He says, and it was used actually for hunting kangaroos. He said you would bring a kangaroo down with that thing. He says my explicit advice to your wife, he said, is whatever you do, don't throw it. And I emailed back, what do you mean, don't throw it? He says, well, boomerangs have a funny way of coming back. And he says, you want to get hit by a ball bat doing about 60 miles an hour? Yeah, I guess not. Okay. So he said, yeah, whatever you do, leave it be. He says, you'll be surprised how that thing stays airborne and makes that 360 and starts heading back. He says, no, don't. And he says, besides, you don't have any kangaroos around there, do you? I said, no, it's not. I'd still like to throw it, but I don't know. I maybe then run into the car or something and shut the door. It got to be a sight to see. Anyway, so Paul has this story he sent us. And like I said, you can too. DocSouthShow@yahoo.com. Email them because that's the best way. That way I can convert them to script here and read them. Actually, as I talk, the email's right over there. Yeah, it's be simple till I somehow delete it. Okay, by mistake, yeah. Okay, Doc, anyway, here's Paul's story. Doc, I wanted to tell you a funny story about a couple mates of mine, Barry and Terry. Uh, about 10 years back when I worked in Sydney, Sydney, Australia. We'd meet up at the Glenmore Hotel in the rocks just above the harbor. So it's overlooking the harbor. It's this hotel, rather old-looking hotel, looked like something from the 20s, maybe older. And they have a bar up on the roof, and they've got it, shaded, and it's glass enclosed. And I guess you can sit up there and get snookered watching the Sydney harbor. Okay. So Terry and Barry. Barry was a diesel mechanic, and Terry an electrician, and both worked for the ferry operator on the ferries that go all over Sydney Harbor. Paul, sent a photo. He says attached is a photo of the Glenmore Hotel, and from there you can look down the harbor. In other words, you can pretty much see everything you need to see on the harbor. Okay, and these guys were maintenance guys, so it was a perfect spot for them to observe. Yeah, if you have a close look, Paul says, you can see a ferry just to the left of the Opera House, which is across the harbor from that Glenmore Hotel. So yeah, these guys had it made. Barry and Terry were on maintenance. They did maintenance on these ferries and would sit at the bar looking out the window down the harbor with a two-way radio in one hand and I guess a Foster's in the other. Not a bad job, you get right down to it. And if a problem arose on the two-way radio, the walkie-talkie, well, then they had to go down to the dock, which was about 5 minutes away. But if not, well, I guess I'll have another beer. In other words, Paul said these two blokes were straight out of Sergeant Bilko. Yes, I think they would have definitely fit that format. Terry had the best story. He was called up in the ballot for the Army to eventually end up in Vietnam as an infantry soldier. Ballot would be the Australian way of saying the draft. So he's there a day or so, and he's in the mess tent where they were having power problems. He was in line at the serving area, and he was in line, like I said, with everyone else. Eventually goes up to the head cook. No food was getting served. And so he goes to the head cook, probably a sergeant, and offers his help. They say, no, thanks. We need an electrician. Well, Terry pointed out that was his trade before the service. And, the cook, the cook said, yeah, go on over there and fix the problem if you can. Gosh, if you know how. So Terry looked into it. Probably turned on the power switch anyway. The food got served. He became a local hero there on the base. Terry said he never fired a single shot in anger while in Vietnam. They reassigned him, and he spent his time watching electricity go around in circles. Although he was still there, things can happen. Certainly not out of danger. One of those camps that he was in was put up pretty quickly, and yep, you guessed it, they needed a permanent electrician. Well, Terry raised his hand, got the job. So he never went on a parade, and the only jungle he saw was the jungle bar that dispensed cold beer. He had free reign, and his only obligation was to be on call 24 hours. He basically got a lot of sleep and read a lot of books. Now and then fix something if it broke. If he was hungry during the wee hours of the morning, well, he'd head over to the mess tent. He could eat any time he wanted because he was on 24-hour call. So he had it made. And Paul says, well, he said to me once, if his kids ever asked him what he did in the Vietnam War, well, he'd say, well, I changed light bulbs. Which, okay, got to have light. Paul goes on to say, another great bloke. So there you are. Again, if you got something like that, send it. Well, I'll read it. We'll turn it into a video blurb, and there you are. I'll give you, use first names only, and even in your case, first names, whatever. And if you got something, all I ask is that it be original to you, that you wrote it, not that you found it somewhere, that you wrote it. And I'll assume since you sent it to me, it's okay with you to post it. Of course, I won't post anything that would be embarrassing to someone, hurtful, that kind of thing. But mostly I'm looking for positive material, interesting, funny little observations you've made during your life. Send them. I'll read them. Okay, I'll be more than happy to. Okay, that's a reference. Thank you, Paul. That was nice of you to send that. And again, just you know what to do. Okay, again, DocSouthShow@yahoo.com. Again, email's the best way to do it. Okay, we'll see you later, and thank you, friends.